Many of you know that my monitor of choice is an LG Ultrawide. It provides an ideal workspace for editing videos, and most games I play at this point natively support 3840 by 1600 resolution. However, I wouldn't say that the model I'm using, which is the 38UC99, is suited for serious gamers. With its high price of $1,500, refresh rate of only 60Hz and a 5 millisecond response time. But the good news is that manufacturers have finally noticed the growing demand for ultra-wide gaming monitors. And that's where the LG 34UC79G comes in, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to call it the 79G instead. It's a lot more affordable at $700, has a 2560 by 1080 IPS panel with a 144Hz refresh rate and a 1 millisecond response time. It's also FreeSync ready and comes with a handful of software additions geared towards gamers. But does LG achieve what they set out to do with the 79G? Let's find out. Compared to other LG Ultrawides, I would say that this is more aggressive than elegant, with its geometrical stand and accompanying red accents. It actually feels well put together with its plastic body, and because of this material choice, it comes in at 19 pounds, 14 pounds without the stand. So on the back we get HDMI 2.0 ports, DisplayPort 1.2, a USB 3 pass-through that gives us 2 additional USB 3A ports, and then you get the audio jacks and of course the DC power input. Fun fact, USB port 1 is actually quick charge enabled, which is something I've seen before, and I found this to be extremely convenient if you own a device that's quick charge ready. In the box you get a single HDMI and display cable, a cable management hook, as well as a 3-prong power cable. LG didn't, however, include a pass-through cable, which is kind of a disappointment, seeing as this is a feature that comes built into the monitor, and it wouldn't have cost them that much to include it. The stand lets you move the display up 4.5 inches vertically, as well as giving adequate tilt angle. I found I could be using this sitting down or standing up without any problems. You don't get any pivot or swivel adjustment, however. And finally, the legs are super easy to install with no tools necessary, and it can also be detached and used with VESA mounting. The 34-inch IPS panel has a gentle curve to it, nothing too aggressive, and no matter what angle I was looking at it from, I didn't see any loss in quality.
Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to show off and discuss the highlights of the Samsung CRG9, a 49-inch super ultra-wide gaming monitor that sports a resolution of 5120 by 1440 over a 32 by 9 aspect ratio. Now this screen is essentially two 27-inch monitors glued together in a much more impressive way than just being actually glued together. Obviously it has no bezels, so the benefit of ultra wide without having two monitors side by side. It is a real beast of a machine that supports HDR, 120Hz refresh rate, AMD's FreeSync 2, and a really impressive bit of kit. Now this is a 49-inch monitor that I've used for 2 weeks after moving from the Lenovo ultra-wide 43-inch monitor, and this is a hell of a lot better. It will cost you around £900, $1,000, roughly around that range, so it is an expensive thing, and I can totally say that I would pay that after spending 2 weeks with it gaming and working, and I had to send it back, and I'm really sad now because going back to my standard 34-inch 1440p monitor is quite painful. For gaming, it is absolutely amazing. If you stick with me, you'll see several clips of me playing with it on different games and see what it's like. As you can see, it's got a lot of flex and bend and ability to turn it on the stand. It'll give you a lot of flexibility in the way you set it up. And it features a number of really cool features and design capabilities that make it particularly interesting. For example, it has the ability to plug in both DisplayPort and HDMI at the same time from 2 different sources, which means you can do picture-by-picture display and have 2 16:9 format displays on the same screen at the same time from different devices, say a laptop and a desktop machine. I've not actually captured footage of this, but I did try it out a little bit, and that is pretty bonkers. However, as a standard gaming display, it's also magnificent. It's really hard to do it justice, but you can see just how vivid the colors are and what a wonderful wraparound display it is. That curve is obviously quite substantial, and a lot of complaints I've heard about people that never played with ultra widescreen monitors, they're worried they might be turning their head a lot to look at either end of the screen, especially a 49-inch. Actually, you don't find that at all. What you do find is that you have a much more wide peripheral view and you get to see a lot more of the world, and it is a wonderful experience. Now, this Samsung monitor, as you can see, has a dock on the back for the stand that you need to screw in, so it's not quite as easy as the Lenovo monitor that I reviewed to set up. You need to screw that stand in at the back and then set it up, and you can see me doing it here. You will note there is a little ring around it. It does have some little backlighting on it as well, and I'll show you that in a bit later on. But the setup process is relatively easy. Just a few screws in the back and then a screw in the bottom plate and you're away. You then plug in your power cable, your USB cables, and either HDMI or DisplayPort. Obviously DisplayPort gives you the better gaming experience, so that's the one to use if you've got it.
MSI have a new 5K monitor in their Prestige series aimed at content creators, the PS341WU. So let's find out what's on offer aside from a crazy high resolution in this detailed review. The Nano IPS panel is 34 inches with a 21:9 aspect ratio and runs with a 5K resolution. Okay, well, what they're calling 5K 2K. Basically 5,120 pixels across and 2,160 pixels up. Around 33% more pixels when compared to 4K. It's just got a 60Hz refresh rate and 8 millisecond gray to gray response time, so obviously not for hardcore gamers. Not that you could push many games high enough at 5K anyway. MSI claimed that the monitor has 99.5% sRGB and 98% DCI P3 coverage. In my testing with the Spider 5, I found 100% of sRGB, 84% of NTSC, and 89% of Adobe RGB. Fairly good results. MSI also list a typical contrast ratio of 1200:1, and I measured mine at 960:1. They note that it's got a 450 nit typical brightness, and I found mine close to this when at 100% in the center. Ghosting isn't something I am personally sensitive to, but you can see the differences between normal, fast, and fastest modes here. Viewing angles were fine regardless of angle. MSI note that it's good for up to 178 degrees both horizontally and vertically. As you may have noticed, the screen is flat rather than curved. While that's probably going to be preferable in many cases for content creators, I noticed that I get used to curved widescreen monitors quicker. It just feels like the corners are much closer and easier to see. The monitor is certified for Display HDR 600, and HDR content looked good to me. Well, at least better compared to not using HDR at all. Though I still don't have a great deal of experience in this area, and it's not really something I can show you. My camera isn't recording HDR, and you likely don't have a HDR monitor to view the result anyway. With HDR mode enabled, it enables local dimming. There don't appear to be many zones, however I didn't see the count listed in the specs. The bezels aren't too thick. I measured them at around 1.2 centimeters, though I honestly can't say I noticed them given how large the panel is. Backlight bleed looked perfectly fine to me. I couldn't see any issues with my own eyes, but this will vary between monitor. It's not all just about the panel though. Taking a look at the rest of the monitor, it's got a metal matte white rectangular base, and overall the stand seemed solid enough. It kept the panel stable when bumping my desk. The stand connects to the back panel with 4 screws. It's got a standard 100mm VESA mount, so you can attach third-party stands or arms. The back is all white plastic with a clean professional look. There's a gold MSI logo towards the corner. Then on the bottom corner there are buttons including a joystick for OSD navigation and a shortcut to the Creator OSD software. More on that shortly. Otherwise there's also a Kensington lock here. The power button is found underneath here below the screen. The I/O is on the back towards the bottom and faces down. From left to right, there are 2 HDMI 2.0 outputs, DisplayPort 1.4, Type-C DisplayPort, USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-B port, which is the input from your PC to use the rest of the Type-A ports, followed by a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A port and 3.5mm audio jack. In order to actually use the 5K resolution at 60Hz, you have to either use DisplayPort or the Type-C port, which is also DisplayPort. The HDMI port only supports up to 4K at 60Hz. The power input is found towards the left, and there's a clasp for holding the cables in place, and this area gets hidden by a white plastic cover. There are 2 more USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A ports on the left-hand side of the screen, along with mic in and headphone out, and even an SD card slot, which was nice to see. You do of course need that USB Type-B cable connected to the monitor, but at least this way I have an SD card slot when using the P65 Creator laptop, which is missing one. In terms of speed, while not able to take full advantage of my V90 card, the results were acceptable. The on-screen display was easy to navigate in terms of finding different options, but I wasn't personally a fan of using the joystick behind the screen to move through the options. No matter though, if you connect the included USB Type-B cable to your PC, you can use MSI's Creator OSD software to manage all of these settings in Windows with the mouse once you install it. Much easier. Once installed, you can quickly open the software with the P button on the back of the screen below the joystick. However, you can also customize this as a macro button between a few different options. I did, however, notice some issues with the software. Some options didn't seem to work properly, so hopefully this gets fixed in future. The monitor comes with a nice assortment of cables, including Type-C, DisplayPort, HDMI, USB Type-B to A, audio cable, and a power cable. No power brick as the adapter is internal and built into the monitor. There's a few adjustments available, including -5 to 20 degrees of tilt, 35 degrees of swivel in either direction, and 0 to 100mm of height adjustment. No pivot here due to how wide the screen is. So far the monitor looks pretty good, but how was it to actually use day to day? It definitely took a bit of getting used to.
Hello everyone, I'm Adrian, the PC Builds editor for Digital Reg on the Go, and today I'll be reviewing the Asus Designo Curve MX38V. Asus Philippines has been kind to send over their demo unit to us. And in this review, we ask, what features does it have? Does it have what it takes for work, play, and anything in between? Let's find out. Now, for the MX38V features, let's take a look at the physical features of the monitor. The test unit provided comes in an incredibly large box containing the monitor, a 65-watt power brick with power cable, an HDMI and DisplayPort cable, a USB 3.0 to USB Type-C cable, and a cover for the rear ports. The monitor itself measures in at 896.6 millimeters for its width, 490.3 millimeters for its height, and 239.7 millimeters for its depth or its thickness, and it weighs at around 9.9 kilograms. The Designo Curve MX38V sports a frameless design. It is encased in a mix of aluminum and hard plastic outer shell. The base is made up of the same materials as the main body, while a logo of Qi Wireless Charging is embedded at the foot of the base, which also serves as the charging pad. The ports for the HDMI, DisplayPort, power, USB, and audio input are all found at the rear. A back cover to keep things hidden is included in the package. And as for the display itself, The display is an IPS panel that is actually measured at 37.5 inches with a resolution of 3840 by 1600 pixels on a screen ratio of 12:5. It categorizes as an ultrawide monitor, or roughly equivalent to two 23-inch monitors with a ratio of 16:9 side by side. Its curvature is measured at 2300 R. The speakers are powered by Harman Kardon and are found just below the screen, in between the screen controls. Now the controls, a set of power button, a 5-way joystick, and a confirmation button for the menu. The on-screen display for the MX38V is loaded with multiple features ranging from ASUS Splendid video modes with 9 to pick from. There is also the blue light filter with 4 modes to choose from. There is a color control that controls the brightness, contrast, saturation, color temp, and skin tone. There is the image control, which controls the sharpness, the trace-free toggle. There is also vivid pixel, ASCR, and adaptive sync. Rounding out the main controls would be the audio control that configures the volume, muting, source, audio wizard with several presets, and a sound mixer. So other functionalities of the menu includes the USB charging, wireless charging, ASUS Game Plus, and picture-in-picture configs. Now, let's jump over to the actual review. From the moment I've set up the monitor in my room, one thing was certain. The MX38V is an eye-catcher. Not only is it big, but its curved screen, frameless design gives an impression that it is the centerpiece of my computer setup. With a 38-inch IPS panel, the color output of the monitor is indeed impressive, having 1.07 billion colors and a native resolution of 3840 by 1600 pixels. Now, for me, it's a big jump from using a 23-inch 1080p monitor for daily work. It's certainly a surprise, especially when it first loaded my desktop. I'm more or less working with the dual monitor setup with the MX38V, but it's without the annoying bezel that kind of breaks the look if I'm using two monitors. Now, having one ultra-wide monitor takes out that annoyance and makes my workplace less cluttered at the same time, because one monitor only uses up one set of cables for power and connecting to my PC. Now, let's jump over to my experience using it productively. For work, it may be for writing documents, looking at spreadsheets, processing images, editing videos, or even programming my applications or websites. The screen is indeed a joy to work on because of its large resolution, and widescreen helps in keeping several windows open at all times. The IPS panel helps in image processing thanks to its wide color gamut, meaning I don't have to perform a calibration effort to correct the color, and looking at it right out of the box without referring to my colorimeter, it looks like it's color accurate enough to do the job of a hobbyist image editor. Now, do note that the IPS monitor is not the same as those found in ASUS ProArt series, which have newer features like HDR or a built-in color calibration tool. And for those having eye strain, the blue light filter lessens the amount of blue light our eyes receive, thus lessening the strain. Also, the effect of using curved monitors allow our eyes to naturally adjust to what's shown on screen, and that also lessens eye strain. But as a safety precaution, always do have time to take a break in between to rest up your eyes.